Welcome to Hope Academy. My name is Mr. O, and today I'm going to be going over the ACT online exam, specifically the fourth exam. That being stated, if you want to look at the exam, feel free to look at the link below in the description to access the exam. But that being stated, I'll be focusing on specifically number 1 through 3. Usually when I do these questions, I go over them real quick and then explain in depth how I was able to get to the answer. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So for number 1. Okay, I see that. Parallel and perpendicular. Okay. And what is the measurement of FCB? Okay, got it. Okay. This would be 33. 33 right here. Okay, so for number 1, my final answer is going to be B, and now I'm going to go ahead and explain to you how I was able to get to this answer. So for this particular question, the important thing you need to be able to do is to understand two different concepts that really stick out to me. It's understanding the property of triangles in general, just the property of triangles, and also recognizing or being familiar with how to go about doing, finding angles. So like parallelism. So like this, the properties of parallelism. So some terms might come out, you might have heard of them before, like alternate interior angles, same side interior, same side exterior, corresponding angles. That sort of property will be very useful for you to understand for this particular question. But that being stated, the way I was able to go about doing this question is first actually understanding also the property of linear lines, or just lines, property of lines, okay? And so when I'm doing this type of question, the thing that sticks out to me automatically when I'm doing this type of question is that I see that there's a 147 right here, and then I also notice that this right here, this line, will always add up to 180 degrees, that all lines will be 180 degrees. And thus, what I first did was found the angle of this little spot right here. So I did 180 minus 147 and found out that's 33 degrees. So this corner right here is 33 degrees. Afterwards, I also recognize that if I have a question mark right here of an angle right here, that means that because of corresponding angles, this angle is going to be congruent to this angle. So this will also be the question mark right here. And then in the end, so I used the property of parallelism right there to find, based on corresponding angles, and I'll write the term in case you want to look it up, corresponding angles was very useful for me. In the end, the property of triangles I must always remember is that all three angles in any triangle that exists must add up to 180 degrees. And thus, because I have 33 here, and I have a 90-degree angle for this triangle right here, I could find this last triangle by adding 33 plus 90, and the little box right here indicates 90 degrees, so 33 plus 90, which is 123, and then I did 180 minus 123 and found out my final answer, or the angle for that question mark, is going to be 57 degrees B, and that concludes my explanation for number 1. And now for me to continue on to number 2. So number 2, which defines an equation of the circle in which its center at 0, 0. Okay. That passes through 3, 4 in the standard center. Okay. 3, 4. Okay, that means it's 5. The radius must be 5, so 25. X squared plus y squared equals to 25. Okay, so for number 2, my final answer is going to be J. And now I'm going to go ahead and explain to you how I was able to get this answer. So for this particular question, the important property you must remember or understand is the property of circles, okay? And so when I'm doing particularly this question based on circles, is not just me understanding that, oh, the circle has a specific radius, it has these sort of things. There's an actual equation that you do need to be familiar with that will help you do this question. Okay, and so the equation sort of looks like this. So it'll be like x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals to r squared. And sorry that it doesn't fit perfectly in here, but the idea behind this x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals to r squared is that this equation for the circle has a few things that you need to also understand. The h and the k will always represent my center, or aka the origin of the circle / origin. And so for this question in particular, right off, I noticed that the center is at 0, 0. So that means that these values are going to be 0. So it's just going to be x squared plus y squared. So I knew right off f, g, h will not work for me because they are not at all in the format or equation for a circle. Afterwards, the reason why I solved out for this triangle right here is because when I found out that the coordinates were 3 and 4, that means that the coordinates 3, 4, that means that this x is going to be 3, my y is going to be 4. But this is not the important thing that's really important for this question. The more important thing is for me to find the radius of this circle. And so if I imagine as if there was a circle right here going through this, I needed to find actually the hypotenuse. I created like a right triangle and understood that based on the properties of special triangles, and this is just a trick that helps me a lot knowing special triangles. When I understood right off that because I have 3, 4 based on special triangles, that length automatically has to be 5. If you forgot how to, if you forget that little trick, you can always use Pythagorean theorem to find it, and thus I got 5 here, and that means that my radius, when I'm plugging into this particular equation, has to be actually 5 squared, because the equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals to r squared. So it would be 5 squared, which is 25, and thus how, for number 2, my final answer is going to be j, x squared plus y squared equals to 25. And that concludes my explanation for number 2. Now I'm going to continue on to number 3, but I'm going to go ahead and set up first because this question looks like it requires multiple parts. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So what I need to do is, okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, so edges, design feet. So, okay, so 48, 72, 60, 10, 13%, 180. It takes 1/8 off, so 181. Okay, so for number 3, my final answer is going to be D. Sorry about that, because it doesn't fit in the picture. But that being stated, the important thing about this question, it is a word problem, and the thing that might throw people off is the fact that there is an actual unit change that occurs. Okay, so there is a unit change that occurs in this unit. So units is the big important piece for this question, because what happens is that I'm going to just re-sketch a little mini version, but basically they provide you the info 465, and they're asking you basically to use this information to help you find out what is the smallest size of a piece of lumber. But there's an extra caveat to this question, where they're saying that each cut takes off 1/8 inch. And so the part is that because these units are actually in feet and they want this all in inches, you need to reconvert all of these by doing multiply by 12 to each measurement. Because as you should know, and if you forgot, every 1 feet will always equal to 12 inches. And thus, my new dimensionalities for this question is actually going to be 48, 72, and 60. And so what I did was I simply added these values, 60 plus 48 plus 72, and if you add them up on the calculator, it's going to be 180. But remember that the important thing is that you have to have an extra 1/8 inch, because each time you're cutting, that's going to be the extra piece. So that's why I added 1 extra inch just to cover for the extra waste that may occur. And thus why for number 3, my final answer is going to be D. And that concludes my explanations for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Twitter so that we could continue to make content like this. Feel free to also leave a comment if there is any concepts you want me to cover in the future so that I could go ahead and do so. Thank you so much once again for watching this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.